a lot of people have never had their eyes examined, right? So please tell us, what is eye health?
Eye health generally is about checking our eyes, making sure our eyes are in good health. Like we heard from the respondents previously, who thought that their eyes were normal, and by the time they had that little test, they found out that their vision was short. Conditions like diabetes, hypertension can also manifest in the eyes as well. So it's not just about the eyes having problems, but about the human, having problems as well that could easily be picked up by just checking the eyes alone.
Wow. So in Africa in particular, why is eye health something we should pay attention to?
Blindness is a problem in Africa generally. Yeah, blindness is a problem in the whole world, but unfortunately we have quite a number of preventable causes of blindness being prevalent in Africa. The statistics can be quite staggering. In Africa alone, we have about 9 million people who are blind.
Wow.
And then we have about 27 million, 3 times that number, who've got visual impairment.
So that means they have problems with their vision.
Yes, they've got problems with their vision. Then in children, childhood blindness is another cause of blindness. You can imagine a child who would live for about 70 years, and that child gets blind, born blind, or stays blind after being born. You expect the child lives for 70 blind person years. That child becomes very dependent on someone. And generally in the whole world, we've got about 1.4 million children blind. And a huge proportion of that blindness is preventable, and unfortunately is in Africa.
They live in Africa, absolutely. So what are the main eye problems that we deal with here in Africa?
Generally, there are a number of conditions that can affect the eyes. Cataracts is a major cause of blindness. Cataracts constitutes about 50% of world blindness.
Wow.
One can explain that because of age. It's quite common in the elderly. Almost every elderly person will develop cataracts at one time or the other in their aging years. We've also got glaucoma. Glaucoma, it's called the silent thief of sight. That's the problem.
Oh, wow. Repeat that. The silent thief of sight.
Yes.
Wow, I like that.
Because a number of patients who have glaucoma, I was thinking about some of those respondents.
Yes.
You'd be surprised. You take a look at any of them, and it's possible that they could have glaucoma without even knowing it. We've also got uncorrected refractive errors.
Okay.
Where people need glasses. I think some of those respondents may also have uncorrected errors, where they need glasses to improve the quality of their vision.
Okay. And then what about diabetes?
Yeah, diabetic retinopathy is a huge problem right now. It's achieved endemic proportions right now because there's an increase in the incidence of diabetes I guess as a result of lifestyle changes. We're becoming quite westernized, and a lot of processed foods and all that. So diabetes tends to affect the eyes. It gradually, slowly destroys the eye without the person even knowing until almost everything is gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So so there's some things that really jumped out to me about some of the statistics that I looked at, in Africa. And one of it is that, and you never think about this, that 3.1% of deaths, not just in Africa, but around the world, are indirectly related to eye problems, such as cataract or glaucoma. You sort of think the eye is such a small part of the body, but that there are things that can affect the eye that can actually affect your health to the point that it leads to death, either like through a motor car accident or just the other changes it may bring about in your life. And then the other thing, just looking about is that a quarter, and you had mentioned this earlier a bit, that a quarter of children worldwide who are blind live in Africa. And yet, eye health for adults or for children is not a priority on our health agenda at all in sub-Saharan Africa. And then the other thing too is that children under 5 are at the highest risk for blindness. Like you said, either they're born blind or they contract an infection or something that leads to blindness early on in life. And it usually happens less than the age of 5. And what is significant about this, and I know this is of interest to you because you like pediatric ophthalmology, is that children learn and take in the world through their eyes and through touch. So when you knock out the eyes very early on in their maturation, in their development, it really affects their cognitive and their physical development. So it's more than just a child who's born blind or who gets blind being dependent on somebody else. Is that child cannot actually develop cognitively and physically the way that they should. I thought that was interesting because I never really thought about that.
Yeah. There's actually a correlation between childhood blindness and infant mortality rates.
Really?
Yeah, we've got very high infant mortality rates in Africa. We've also got childhood blindness in Africa. They're quite interrelated. That's why the government, of the countries in Africa, including Nigeria, tend to talk about immunization programs. There's a lot of publicity going on, advocacy, and the children come in for immunizations. They're immunized against different conditions, rubella, vitamin A deficiency. These are all causes of blindness.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the different causes of eye problems in Africa and just define it for us so we understand better. So you mentioned cataracts and glaucoma and refractive errors and, so tell us about, and diabetes. So tell us about cataracts.
Yeah, well, cataract form causes about more than half the world's blindness. A cataract is, the lens actually is like, the eye is like a camera with the lens in the middle of it. And that lens is supposed to be clear, so you have light passing through the camera, the lens to focus on the screen. In cataracts, the lens becomes cloudy. So the vision tends to go down gradually. Very painless, gradual loss of vision in the elderly. It's quite common in the elderly, although you have children who are born with cataracts as well, or children who develop cataracts from some of these conditions we had mentioned earlier.
So Dr. Mildred, you just told us about cataracts, so tell us about glaucoma.
Yeah, glaucoma comes up after cataracts. Glaucoma causes about 30% of the world's blindness. The difference between glaucoma and cataracts is, cataracts you can treat. Somebody comes in with cataracts, you do surgery, and he sees. But for glaucoma, the blindness is irreversible.
Okay.
And it causes silent blindness. With cataracts, you can see that you're going, the vision is going down. But with glaucoma, the vision doesn't go down.
So what exactly is glaucoma?
Glaucoma is a condition that destroys nerves. So there's a problem either with the pressure, the eye pressure, just like the blood pressure, the eye has also got pressure as well. So there's a problem with the eye pressure, although in some cases it goes up, and with the pressure going up, there's damage to the most vulnerable part of the eye. And unfortunately, this is the nerve to the eye.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's slow, progressive, relentless damage to the nerve of the eye. And the damage starts from the sides. So as long as, you can see close, you can see head straight on, you don't notice it. So that's why it's called the silent thief of sight.
Wow. Okay, so now let's talk about refractive errors. Yeah. Tell us exactly what refractive errors are.
Yeah. Refractive error is a condition in which the eye doesn't focus clearly. Like some of the respondents we heard initially in the program, yes. Some of them could not see the little prints on the charts they were reading. Yes. They were reading a chart. So in children, uncorrected refractive errors pose a huge problem. Because when they are not treated, they're not picked up early, the child doesn't know what is good vision.
Yes.
All he knows is this is what I see and this is normal.
What about trauma?
Yeah, injuries. Injuries are another cause of blindness. We see quite a number of injuries in adult children. More children, adults, mainly in those who their professions involve welding or hammers or carpentry.
We're talking with Dr. Mildred Olaikere about eye health. So Dr. Mildred, can we talk a little bit more about childhood blindness and what exactly are the causes of childhood blindness? You talked about vitamin A deficiency, but what are some of the other causes of childhood blindness?
Yeah, vitamin A deficiency causes corneal blindness. So there are other causes of corneal blindness in children as well. Measles, we talked about measles as well. Cataracts can cause childhood blindness. Actually, cataracts cause half of childhood blindness in Africa.
So this is cataracts that the children are born with?
Yes, they are born with cataracts. Some children are born with cataracts, some develop cataracts,
Okay.
within childhood. So you have the developmental as well as the congenital that are born. Quite a number of these could be hereditary. A number could be as a result of infections, like we mentioned earlier. There are some infections that the child could contract from the mother, where you have poor.
So she didn't get good prenatal care.
Yes, she didn't get. Yes, exactly. She didn't get good prenatal care. Yes.
Okay.
So that could make the child contract these illnesses.
Now, what about glaucoma? Can children have glaucoma?
Yeah, some children are born with glaucoma. It's commoner in boys for some reason.
Okay.
Yeah, but children, a child could present with large eyes. Sometimes you see children with very large, beautiful eyes.
Okay. What about some of the traditional things we do, like herbal remedies and things? Because I understand some of that can impact the eye as well.
Oh yeah, we've got in Africa, we've got the juju priests who would recommend stuff. It's unfortunate, but there are quite a number of people who still access those traditional eye. I mean, they've got their own role to play generally, yeah, but you still have those who go blind from these toxic materials that they put into the eye. It's a problem.
So childhood blindness is a real problem in Africa, but in general, though, who's at risk for eye health?
I think everyone is at risk for eye health, for poor
eye health, yes.
Yeah. Everyone is at risk. I mean, you don't get your eyes checked. There could be a problem lurking in the eye if you don't get it checked. But generally, those who have the populations with lack of awareness, they are very busy trying to survive.
Yes.
So they don't think about their health generally.
Yes,
I think those people who live in crowded conditions, who do not access immunizations for their children, who do not take care of themselves generally, they're probably distracted with other things, are at risk for poor eye health.
So what are the signs and symptoms of poor eyesight? So we've talked about all of these conditions like cataract. So somebody who has developed a cataract, what are some of the signs and symptoms that person would have? Somebody who has glaucoma, what are some of the signs and symptoms that person would have?
Yeah, generally, if there's a problem with the eyes, like I mentioned earlier, some of the conditions may not even cause any
signs and symptoms. Yes.
I mean, they may not come in with any, they may have I have no complaints, my eyes are perfect, like glaucoma. But sometimes, most times, there's some blurring of vision, either blurring or some visual obscurations. Some say T looks like L, or somebody comes in with purple, the vision is purple, what they see is purple. Or they see halos around lights, there are rings around lights. Sometimes they come in with headaches. We see quite a number of people who come in with headaches.
Okay, that's good to know. So what are some of the ways to treat all of these conditions? So how do we treat cataracts and glaucoma and the refractive errors? How do we treat those things? How would you, as the surgeon, as the doctor, how do you treat that?
Well, the treatment generally depends on the cause for the for the visual impairment or the blindness. If it's a cataract, it's surgery, generally.
It's surgery, that's it. There's no other way.
Yeah, there's no other. I mean, if it's early, then one may manage with glasses. But as it progresses, there's no other way but surgery. Glaucoma could be treated with medications, eye drops. So the way one uses tablets for hypertension throughout life, glaucoma is treated with medications throughout life, except there's a change. There's a tendency for people to just go to the pharmacy to pick up medications,
Yes.
to treat stuff. And I mean, sometimes it could be very serious condition, and they use drops that they pick up from the pharmacy. So that time delay can cause problems. Yeah.
Okay. Then what about refractive errors? How do we treat those?
Yeah, refractive errors, can be treated with glasses. Of course, a test has to be done to determine the type, the power of the lenses, because these lenses come in various powers. So the doctor tests the patient to identify the type of power, because it could be short-sighted or long-sighted or astigmatic, I mean, these are all the different types of refractive errors. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, this has been good. So we've covered, the treatment for the various eye conditions. So thank you very much. So Dr. Mildred, what are the complications of poor eye health?
Well, people who have poor eye health would eventually develop, become blind, or they become visually impaired. And these problems could affect their survival, either as children or survival in terms of fending for themselves as adults. Yeah. Yeah. Then in children, it's unfortunate, I talked about some children being killed, life snuffed out of them by their parents or their relations. Sometimes some of these children are raped. They're assaulted sexually, and because they are blind, they can't identify their assailants.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about prevention then. Since, our situation in sub-Saharan Africa is quite dire, we don't have all the services we need. So prevention.
Yeah, I mean, to prevent blindness, I think it depends on the age.
Yes.
It cuts across all ages.
Yes.
In children, I think if the mothers access health care, good prenatal care for while they are pregnant,
Yes.
they eat, they feed well, and when the child is born, the baby, the infant, the eyes should be checked. Just a simple eye check by the doctor or the midwife can save a lot of problems, in the future. When they're getting into primary school, secondary school, they should have their eyes checked. Okay. Adults should have their eyes checked. So you have a history of glaucoma in the family. Somebody is blind for some reason in your family, your mother's side, your father's side, you should have your eyes checked, because sometimes some of these conditions are hereditary. Yes. Who knows, one could have inherited it, and who knows, I mean, some of these conditions, if they are caught early, can be prevented.
And then, of course, you had mentioned earlier about the immunizations, making sure that the kids are...
Yeah, it's so important, these immunizations. It's not just about the well-being of the child, but the eyes as well, because these conditions, for some reason, it's the eyes. They just go for the eyes.
Yeah. So your recommendation is that, children at different stages in their education should just get their eyes checked routinely. They don't have to be complaining about it, but just do it anyway. And same as for us adults, every few years, just get your eyes checked, because it may not even be an eye problem. It may end up pointing out something else for us. So it's really worth it. It's a small part of the body, but very, very vital. Well, this has been great, Dr. Mildred. Thank you so very much for coming and just, helping us see how important this little part of our bodies, are. Thank you very, very much. And hopefully we'll have you back again on the show.
I will come.